Hello. Today we're going to talk about how you can use your Glossobooks. Wait. And first of all, what they are, and then how you can use them with your students in your classrooms. So to begin with, let's talk about what makes Glossobooks. This is a picture from last summer, not the summer, the previous one, when I went to Zanzibar at a school there, and I gave some Glossobooks to the students, and it was one of the most touching experiences I've had. So that's why I wanted to start with this today. Now, what are the common features of all Glossobooks? First of all, they're not glossy. They do not look like magazines. They look like actual books. And they're made of recyclable paper. And what we want to bring back to life is the love for the printed book. They're not tech-based in the sense that, not that we are against technology or anything, quite the opposite. And you will find in Glossobooks QR codes that students can scan with their phones, and this will take them to videos or other sources. But we do not have an interactive whiteboard software component. First of all, because it's very expensive. And second, because we believe that students need to start looking at the book, at each other, and not at the screen. Now, there are, of course, supplementary books. They're not course books. So you use them alongside your course book. They're not linear. So you can start from the end, go to the beginning, then to the middle. You don't have to follow a certain, let's say, syllabus. All Glossobooks, regardless of their topic, will have a component of art, of drama and education, of course, critical thinking and creative tasks. They're text-based. You need to revisit this long stretch of words and sentences and meaning making. And there are no benefits, no freebies, no extras. We do not give anything for free, not even teachers' books. And the reason for this is that first, Glossobooks are very affordable. In fact, they're quite cheap, but also because we believe that people who love books need to spend a little money to buy them, and we love books. Now, we've had some distinctions. First of all, Glossobooks on their first year of publication were qualified for the second phase of the Elton Awards that are run by the British Council internationally. And two of our Glossobooks, Crick Crack and My Story, were shortlisted for the Bologna Children's Fair Award, again an international award. We did not get it, but we were very proud to be shortlisted. Now, we've got lots of Glossobooks for students, which means students actually buy them and use them. We've got, in fact, these, and the German one, Hop Hop, and the French one, Il était une fois. And we've got Glossobooks for teachers and some special editions. My book, Teaching Grammar Without Teaching Grammar, Elizabeth Bellew's book, Art and Cinema in Teaching, the book, My English Summer Scrapbook, which is a self-study. The same goes for our It's Christmas Time Glossobook, and My Next Step, which is a special edition that I will explain in a while what it is about. Now, the first Glossobook I'll talk about is My Story. You can use it with your pre-junior or junior A students. It's a book about emergent literacy, so you use it before the alphabet. Some schools decide to use it in parallel. We, in our school, use it before. And as you can see, there is a cutout here where students write their name because it's their story. They are the authors of their Glossobook. So they write their name, and then you ask your students, what story do you want to tell? Which words do you want to know? So perhaps they want to know the word fox. You write it on the board, they copy it. They want to know the word owl. You write it on the board, they copy it. But students choose, each student chooses which words they want their story to be about. And these are the words they copy in their story. And then you tell the story, your story, because we teachers have our own right to our own stories. And then we tell and retell and we ask them and we stop at certain points. So once upon a time, there was a, and you point at the fox and they have to say it. And then when you tell the story several times, students go back and they do the activities. You've got some cutouts, the words, they cut them with scissors, they glue them in the boxes near the animals or the objects. And, this sort of activates their phonological awareness, letter recognition, and word recognition, and of course, vocabulary development. So how does this help? So, here you also have at the back of the book cutouts with straw puppets to tell the story with. So first of all, it helps with their own emancipation because it's their story, it's their voice that we hear, and each story is different and personalized. It helps with letter and phoneme awareness. And also you go from the whole to the parts. It's the opposite of phonics. Phonics can follow. Phonics are great, but they need to follow this approach. So first you want to explore the whole. What is the story? What are the characters in the story? How can I say these names? How can I write them? How can I recognize them? And then you break it down to letters and phonemes. So after you do that, the alphabet gets really easy to learn. Also, we've got early fluency development because they tell their own story. What we do in our school is that we audio record the students telling their story at the end of September, at the end of January, and then again in May. And we've got 3 different instances of their language development that we send to parents, and they can see the amazing progress their children have made. It takes around 2 weeks to cover at the beginning of the school year, but you keep telling the story throughout the school year, and you'll see that your students will ask more and more of it. And here you can see some examples of things we did with this book with our students. Now, another book for young learners is My English Journey. Now, this is for Junior A and or Junior B. And it's not emergent literacy like the previous one, it's early literacy. So we use it when students have learned their ABCs. Now, My English Journey is written by 3 experts in educational psychology. And initially, it was made for learners with difficulties. But then we saw that it works with everybody. So we decided to use it with all our learners. It has different units on different topics. Again, you can do them in any order. You can match them with your course book unit. And it helps with letter recognition, phonological awareness, things that confuse learners. It's got games, creative tasks, a board game, and it's great fun. Third book, one of our best-selling ones is Crick Crack. You can use it with Junior B or Senior A. However, I will use it with my Senior C students because they're young. So you always need to take into consideration the age of your students. It's not just the level. And as we know from the CFR, the levels of the CFR are not like the colors in a flag. They're like the colors in a rainbow. So their boundaries are fuzzy. We cannot clearly say this book is made for this level, especially when it comes to storytelling and creative tasks. But we can say this book matches this age group. So Crick Crack is a book about storytelling. It's got an activities. It's got 11 stories. Some of us are written by us, the authors. Some others are stories from around the world, and they're really great. And they're STEAM tasks, creative writing tasks, games, very language-based tasks that students love, kinesthetic tasks, like, look here, can you create a choreography for the song? Present it to your class. This is a great homework task. And crosswords and critical thinking tasks and, vocabulary development tasks. And a scavenger hunt based on a story. This is one of my favorite activities. And here you can see our students, doing activities from Crick Crack and reading the story in their story corner. This is Nanette's story, one of their favorites. Fourth book, written by Eleni Dougiecou, she's the author, Drama Beats. You can use it with Senior A, Senior B, or basically even Junior B or Senior C. Again, it's a book with drama and education activities. It's like a breather. It makes your learners speak and act out and think and create and, get down to creative work and with each other. So basically, you can use it for 10, 15 minutes a week with any level of children. And, it's super fun. Students love it. You can see here some of the activities. And again, of course, you always have a story. In all Glossobooks, there's always a story because no matter what we teach, through a story, we can learn better. Okay. The fifth Glossobook is Let's Make Noise. You can use it with Senior A, Senior B. Some schools use it with B Junior as well. It's a book with pronunciation activities. That's why we call it Let's Make Noise. A suggestion, ask your students at the beginning of the school year, if they use this book, to also get a small mirror that they can use at home, to say the sounds and see how their lips move, where to place their tongues, and so on. And it's got, different sounds that learners have difficulties with, like sh, ch, long, short vowels, all of them in a very playful way, taught in a very playful way. And the interesting thing with Let's Make Noise is that for every 4 or 5 sounds, there's a checkout point where there is a text that students have to read again and again at home that includes these sounds they've practiced on. And then when they come back to class, they have to read the whole text. And it's like our oral assessment task. Are you able to pronounce these sounds correctly in a connected speech fashion? Now, it's important to remember that we do not teach correct accent. There's no such thing as correct accent, but correct pronunciation. The sixth Glossobook, again, one of our best-selling ones, is Once Upon a Time. We use it with Senior C. Some schools use it with B1 as well. In some private schools and morning schools, they use it with Delta Δημοτικού. It's the same concept with Creek Crack. Stories with activities. We've got now 16 stories. I'm sorry. Again, from around the world. Some of them well-known, some others less well-known, and lots of storytelling activities. Something about Once Upon a Time is, again, you can match it to your course book unit or to the season. For example, if it's before Christmas, you can do the Gingerbread Man. Seventh book is Inquiring Minds. Inquiring Minds is a book with STEAM activities for intermediate students, let's say A2, B1, B1 plus. I know nothing about STEAM, to be honest. It's not that I'm not an expert. I'm an ignorant. However, the two authors are English language teachers and STEAM experts with extensive experience in morning schools, teaching STEAM as well, and very specific studies on STEAM. So, the book has 6 units where students explore different subject areas with experiments, with language-based activities, above all, with a scientific thinking approach, writing production tasks, and of course, content knowledge. And, life skills as well, what you do when there's an earthquake. And you can see here the projects they make. They love it. It's fascinating to use. One thing you can do with Inquiring Minds, at the end of the school year, your students can present their work at a science fair, but also you can, and some colleagues have done that, create a STEAM club, an Inquiring Minds club, like once a week, every Friday or every Saturday, where students come and they do this work with our book, Inquiring Minds. And, of course, parents pay an extra fee for that. Our 8th book is Relaxing Grammar. It's for B1, B1 plus, B2. And it's basically our answer to what our students called torture time, and that was use of English. So we created a book with the functions needed for grammatical functions needed for these levels. And through interesting texts, through stories, through fun tasks, they practice these grammar points. 9th book is Imagine, B1, B1 plus, B2. It's a book like Crick Crack and Once Upon a Time, but now the text is visual. It's visual storytelling. So students scan a QR code, they watch a video, and then they do the follow-up activities, which help them with vocabulary development, creative writing, reading, listening, of course. An anecdote, when there are terrible things happening with refugee tragedies, I get messages from parents about how grateful they are that their children actually understand what refugees go through one of the units in Imagine, which is about one of the chapters, which is about refugees. 10th book by Sofia Iacovidou. It's called Me, Myself, and I. You can use it from B1 to B2 plus. In fact, you can even use it with C1 students and grown-ups. The subject of the book is brain-based learning and growth mindset. And Sofia has written amazing activities like that promote growth mindset. Some of them are scientific texts, some are literary texts like poems, videos, experiments, lots of creative writing. And you can also find lots of resources for teachers with extra videos, TED Talks, tasks, you can use with your learners. Our super best-selling book is the 11th one, Scribbling. You can use it with B2 and above students. We use it with our C2 students in deeper learning. It's a creative writing book. It's got texts from Kafka, from Plato, Proust, from Alice in Wonderland, and then you use this text as creative reading tasks so that you then can move on to creative writing. It's one of the books that really helped our teenage students to get down to writing. They were so inspired by the creative writing tasks in Scribbling that then they started writing, the formal tasks that we need to teach them for exams. 12th Glossobook word blocks, brand new from B1 to C1. We will also be using it with grown-ups, with adult classes. Dimitris Koubis wrote this book. It's a vocabulary development book. Where you play with words and try to break them down into parts to understand their meaning. It's like a mini introduction to linguistics, to etymology. And I think students will start experimenting with vocabulary and learning it better when they use word blocks. Catastrophe from B2 to C2, but however, some schools use it with B1 as well, so it works there as well. It's about a cat who's a philosopher and his adventure. He's got moral dilemmas. Lazaros Alexakis wrote this book. We used it in our summer school at a private school with Ekti Dimotikou students, and it worked really well. They loved it because it's super fun and super funny as well. It's got a great sense of humor. And here you have listening, speaking, reading, and writing, so all skills. 14th book is Telltale for kindergarten, pre-junior, junior A, and anything you want. You can even use it with junior B. Telltale is storytelling. It's got 4 stories, but here the difference is that all the tasks the students do are not literacy-based, so they do not have to read or write anything. They listen, they speak, they draw, they act out, they dance, they learn a lot of vocabulary and chunks, but they don't have to write anything. If you go on to my YouTube channel, I've got a video telling one of the stories, and you can see how to use it with your own students in your classrooms. Also, if you go to the Glossobooks website, there's a tab that says resources, and there you can find for each book all the teacher's resources, the keys, tips, and so on. Fifth Glossobook, Tale of the Lost Tale, brand new, written by the two authors of Scribbling. So I'm assuming this is going to be another bestseller. This is creative writing for young learners now. So we will use it with pre-A1, A1, and A2. It's the story of a gecko that lost its tail, and throughout the book, it keeps looking for it. And through this search, our young learners write creative tasks. So you've got optical illusions, comics, board games that make students write. So again, we thought that students are not familiar enough with written production, and we need to motivate them and engage them into written tasks. 16th book, Into the Forest I Go. It's about forest and outdoor educator. It's written, the three lead authors are all forest educators with experience in this part of education. So you go out there in nature or just outdoors, and you do several tasks that the book has in. It's based on seasons, so the 4 chapters are based on the 4 different seasons, and you work with stories, with loose parts, with arts and crafts. 17th book is Thread. The author is Maria Zeca. It's a book about creative writing through our senses. Again, as you can see, we use it with B1, B1 plus, and B2. And as you can see, again, we try to find ways to help our learners write. So in this book, they smell, they touch, they dream, and they write. This is from chapter 1, What is Love? You see, they scan the QR code, they watch a video, they answer questions, they watch another video, they answer questions, and then they actually write. 18th book, it's a German glosso book by Dimitra Pone, Hop Hop. Dimitra tells me hop hop means let's go, come on, let's do it. It's the same concept with Crick Crack and Once Upon a Time. So it's storytelling and activities in German. Our glossolivre. So we have a Glossobuch in German and a Glossolivre in French. Il était une fois. Poppy Casandinou is the lead author. And again, it's storytelling and activities in French. And it's actually got 2 of the Crick Crack stories translated in French and others, of course. And here it is. Again, stories and creative tasks that follow them. Then we've got Relaxing Test, which is not actually a book, but a booklet. It's a booklet that promotes self-assessment, peer assessment, and even teacher assessment. So the learner assesses the teacher. And you can give it to your students at the beginning of the school year, and even as a present, and have them work on these assessment tasks throughout the year. My next step, as I said, it's a special edition. It's made for B1, B2 students, but it's made with something very specific in mind. Virginia Blaney is the lead author for this book, a very experienced teacher and tester. And she created a book along with other authors that helps learners of 6th grade in primary school to get ready for junior high school entrance exams. So there are schools that want you to take a test to enter the junior high school, a test of English. And they're usually either bilingual schools or international schools, or schools anyway that place an emphasis on English. as a component of their curriculum. And this is in reality a practice test book, but the texts are really interesting. And, you know, of course, since it's a Glossobooks, they're human rights driven. But you will find very useful activities for other exams as well, like Cambridge PET. Teaching Grammar Without Teaching Grammar is my book. It's a book for teachers, not for learners. And it's got 24 lesson plans on how to teach different grammar points subtly, without revealing the grammar point. So it gives you all the resources you need to teach grammar without teaching grammar. Another group for teachers written by Elizabeth Value, Art and Cinema in Teaching. Again, you'll find lesson plans for different age groups, for different levels, even for very young learners that teachers can use to teach different grammar points or lexical points through art and or cinema. And in fact, Elizabeth says that it's not just about watching movies, but also about making movies. And, you know, it's very clear. I think it's a book that every school needs to have in their library. It's a great resource. And you can see here, you know, some projects from ACT. We've got two self-study books, my English Summer Scrapbook, which students can get like at the end of May or at the beginning of June, and, you know, do fun stuff in English throughout their summer. And the same with It's Christmas Time, that students can get before the Christmas holiday and do lots of creative stuff during Christmas holiday. And it's got two Christmas fairy tales, and then, you know, recipes, scavenger hunts based on the theme of Christmas. The next one to come, and I can't wait, will be out in 2 weeks, is Time Travelers, this one. And basically it's about geography, history, and great stories. Students become time travelers and they visit places, they meet people, important people, we think. This is the table of contents of, it's got 15 chapters of the people our learners will learn about, whose lives they will explore. And at the end, they're time traveling activities where students actually travel through time with these important figures by their side. And some of them meet each other. And you'll see what happens. Also expected very soon, Building Blocks, a book written by Tassos Kollias. It's not a book to learn English per se. It's a book about programming and coding in English. Tassos Kollias is worldwide known. He's got so many distinctions on programming and coding and teaching them and taking part in Olympics and everything, global contests and getting awards. So what we're going to do in our school is that we will have a Saturday club with Building Blocks where students will be learning programming and coding in English. And we've also got our first board game, 2 more are coming. Play the Test. It's basically a way to practice interviews for high-stakes exams in a very playful way. It saved me last year after Easter. So students wanted to play the test, but in reality, they were practicing for their oral exams. Now, going back to what Glossobooks are made for, they're real books. You can touch them, you can smell them. They're based on texts. And we want to bring back to life the love for reading, the love for words. And I think this is the reason we became language educators, because we love texts, we love reading, we love stories. I will end with a story from Zanzibar. While I was there, I visited a school for blind children. And one of the guys, Fadin, and myself, we talked a lot. And at some point I asked him, Fadin, which is your favorite book? And he said, my favorite book is a book with stories, because through stories, I understand the world. So thank you very much. You can order your Glossobooks at www.glossobooks.com. You can find all the resources there and sample pages for each book. And if you need anything, you can get in touch with me or the other authors to help you use your Glossobooks in your classrooms. Do not forget our colleagues in Thessaly that need our help and support, and we'll be there for them as we will be there for each other.